Okay. The record should reflect the time is just after 4 p.m. on February 20th, 2024. I call to order the annual meeting of the Village of Tuxedo Park Board of Assessment Review. Present today, to my right, is Deputy Mayor Michelle Lindsay. To my left, Trustee Paul Brook. We are not convening here as the Board of Trustees, but as I said, as the Board of Assessment Review. Seeing three human beings sitting at this table, we have a quorum. We are open for business, and we will be sitting for a period of 4 hours commencing right now. Yep. Yeah, the record should reflect the time is now 4:50 p.m. and we have a grievant present who just arrived. It's Bronwyn Roundtree from 456 Westlake Road. Good evening, Judge. And welcome. You are our first live grievant, and we look forward to hearing your presentation. If you want to give any testimony, I'll put you under oath. There's a brief affirmation, and then you're free to move forward and tell us whatever you'd like to tell us, and we'll give it due consideration together with the documentary evidence you previously submitted, okay?
Perfect. So is any speaking, that would be testimony, right?
Yes,
So,
any speaking would be testimony. So if you there is a formal oath. I'll just give you the general oath, which is, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
So my name is Bronwyn Rowantree. I gave you my paperwork. I apologize. I was trying to pull up my paperwork on the way here and couldn't find it, but I remember some of the highlights because you guys have it. So the long and the short of it is I believe the village has overassessed the property based on the previous owners, the value of the property under the previous owner. So I submitted 3 data points. One was what we paid for the property 2 years ago, which was $639,900. The second was what the appraiser appraised the value for at the time of that sale, which was 7 something. That's a number I don't have, but it's in your packet. And then the third data point is what the town has it currently assessed at, which is $852,500. And I can't remember what the village has it assessed at, but it's $1,052,000 or something like that.
We have it as $1,224,053.
Yeah, so my comment, and I think this is obvious from the papers, is that the 3 numbers from the sale, the appraisal, and the town taxes are all sort of within a relatively narrow range of about $200,000, and then the village assessment is significantly over even the highest of those 3 numbers. So I put in the estimated value, what I think would be a fair price, the highest of those 3, which is what the town has it assessed at. I don't know if it is helpful for you to have consistency across the board, or if consistency is not, hobgoblin of little minds and whatnot. So wherever you guys come out is fine. But I just thought that seemed to be a reasonable place to land as the highest of the lower 3 numbers, as opposed to the village's significantly higher number. One other thing I would say is that I understand that there might be some questions because this was a bank-owned property, that there might be some issues with it not being an arm's length transaction. However, I believe it was an arm's length transaction. The property was for sale for years before we bought it. I can provide this information if it would be helpful as an addendum, but if you look at the listing, the bank bumped the price down multiple times before we bought, meaning I think that reflects that the price at which we bought was the price that was the fair market price, as opposed to it being a lowball number that the bank was simply looking to offload property that it didn't want to manage any longer. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I do have one question with respect to the town's action. Was that following a grievance that the reduction was made, a SCAR hearing, or how did that work?
Well, so we hired an attorney to do that, so I'm not entirely sure what happened. And at the time, I did not appropriately understand the difference between the village and the town, and so we only grieved the town. And then I was surprised when I saw the village taxes last year. I thought, wait, we already did that. And then John helpfully told me that it's 2 separate processes. So that was an oversight on our part not to have grieved them collectively or last year when we did it. Our mistake. Happy to have filled the coffers a little bit extra last year, but we would prefer not to do that this year.
Well, my question was actually, do you know, I know you hired counsel, do you know, did this go to a hearing officer in Goshen, or was it a decision by the town's Board of Assessment Review that resulted in the reduction, if you know?
So that I'm not entirely sure of. I know that there is, if you do like a Lexis search, there is it comes up as an order, which makes me think that it went to a
Oh.
judge as opposed to the assessor, but I don't actually know that for a fact.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, it's very, very, helpful. It's clear that it's a relatively illiquid market from time to time, and transactions are not always representative of value both ways.
Yep.
But it's helpful to understand that.
Yeah, thank you for the assessment, the appraisal rather.
Yeah, yeah. And if there's any additional paperwork that you think would be helpful, I can send you anything I can find.
Sure. Let me explain the process from this point on. We're actually a board of 5. 2 of the members are not present here today, but we have a quorum of 3. Those members will be given an opportunity to review your documentary submission. They'll be able to look at the recording of this meeting, to listen to your remarks, and then they'll participate in the deliberations that will take place sometime in the relatively near future, and you'll receive a decision from us, a written decision.
Well, thank you very much for considering my application.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
in.
you.
See you, Judge.
Yeah. I hope you have a relatively quiet, just 4-hour period. That's quite good.
John, at this point, we can pause the recording,
Thanks.
introduction, and then you're free to make your presentation, okay? Okay. Then you can come up here if you want to sit down and use the table. Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay, the record should reflect the time is 5:33. We have our second in-person grievance, the Yanuzzi family, welcome. This is the Board of Assessment Review. We're here to listen to your presentation. We obviously, did you submit yet? Have we received it? Okay, so we will make photocopies so everyone has a chance to look at your statement. You're free to tell us whatever you want, provide whatever evidence you want. The only requirement is that you take an oath before testifying if you want to speak, and we will deliberate and you'll receive a decision sometime in the near future. It will not be tonight. Okay?
Understood.
Very good. So do you have the grievance form? John will make copies for everybody, and then we'll have a chance to read from the same document.
Anything else? No, no. Give me 1 minute. It's
Just give them a minute, so we're all reading from the same, page.
So this explains why Paul wasn't on the tennis court earlier today.
Say it again?
This explains why you weren't on the tennis court.
That's right. I didn't get an invite, but it's okay. I'm getting old. A weekend of 3 a.m. every night, a little hard at my age.
Were there other people on the Zoom link or anything?
There are not, as
No,
far
no.
as I know. This is,
No.
Or trustees or anything?
no,
No.
the other members of the board are not here. They'll have a chance to review your submission and review the tape as well, and they'll participate in the deliberating process.
This is different than the last time we were before the board. It was just out of curiosity, if we decide to appeal what you decide to Goshen? Who represents the village in Goshen?
The village is represented by John Ledwith. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Yanussi, who's going to speak? Both of you or just one?
Primarily, myself.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you're about to give will be given accurately and truthfully to the best of your ability to do so?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
We're here today to request a reduction in our assessment. And, I believe that it is warranted to reduce our value of property. And I think that if you compare it to either, similar homes, comparable properties within the park broadly, or separately against specific properties that are neighbors to the left and neighbor to the right, consecutively your property on a per foot basis of livable square feet, which is what is listed fairly consistently. We're paying a much higher rate than the average and a much higher rate than our most comparable home, which is almost identical in size to others on the list in both cases. So for that reason, what I looked at was from Wang, Hennessy, Hanson, former Yasky, now Sternick property, Dean, Regna, Nealis. Those are properties, if you check the tax map, from the club over to our house and from our house farther along. The average square foot is $39.20 a square foot. That's the top chart. We are paying currently $51.63. And we are very similar on average to these homes. We're an older home. It's 130 years old. Okay. And I think that it would be unfair to keep us at the current rate. Okay. If you look at the most comparable house within that stream there, and just 2 houses from us, it's Walter Dean's house. His house is 4,249 feet, and our house is 4,224, nearly identical. And I believe his is as similar age to our home. So his average, his price is $33.32 a foot. Again, we're paying $51.63 a foot. Right. So I think that is warranted on that basis to reduce us to somewhere between the average and Walter Dean's. That gives us a little bit of premium to Walter Dean's. That would be $36.26 a foot. That's the midpoint of just the average and Walter, $36.26. If you look at it more broadly, and when we consulted a professional realtor, they said, yes, you should look at neighbors to the degree you can, and you should look more broadly in the park as well to comparables to broaden it out. And that's how a typical assessment would work. And that's how a realtor would do a professional analysis. And that's where I got this list. And I included on this list Turner, which is on the swimming lake. So it is lakefront. Chen, which is across from us. Many of these properties have much more land or more square footage, but basically broadening out. The Chefs across the, very large property right across at the turn. I think they're well known to everybody. Again, our neighbor and the most analogous house, Walter, the Shaw House, which is 6,000 feet. And again, similar age to ours. Peter Regna's house, the Nealis property, there is, some dispersion here, but the average of those properties is $28 a foot. And again, we're paying $51.63. And of course, I love our home and I hope everyone does love their homes, but this is on a, professional basis, we're being unfairly taxed. And the average of those properties and the midpoint would be $30.80 a foot. And I believe this is warranted, and I'm prepared to, make this case here or elsewhere as appropriate, depending on what you think.
Have you made these arguments previously to prior boards of assessment review?
In fact, I have recently made that to the town
Okay,
prior to the period which is subsequent to this date.
yeah.
And I have received a significant reduction in the town assessment as a result of that.
Do you have those?
That's public. That is, I've been reduced. I have that page here.
Sure, take your time.
And it's available.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
close to 20%
What
reduction.
was it and what was it reduced to?
Well, it's a close to 20% reduction.
Yeah.
You happen to have the numbers, just,
I have to,
if you don't, you can provide them.
if they're public.
Yeah, I understand, but while we want,
If you give me a moment. I'll-
yeah, sure, that'd be great. I mean, if you don't have it tonight, and I understand it's public, you could just, there you go. Okay, thanks.
So the assessment was
Town.
reduced from 350 assessed value to
Mhm.
282,650.
350K to 282,
650.
650, okay.
And the process was the same as I just described to you.
Did you have to go over a SCAR on that, or did you get it directly from the bar?
I got that directly.
From the,
I didn't get that from Goshen.
you got it from the town bar?
I got that from town.
Town bar, okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Well, from the town directly, from the assessor directly.
Oh, the assessor
Yeah.
directly,
Yeah.
okay, but you didn't have to go to a SCAR on that, okay.
I'm not sure where the SCAR is.
Oh,
That's
did you go to Goshen?
No.
Okay, that,
Did you go before the Board of Assessment
went-
Review
I
or
went
just
directly
directly to the
Directly to
assessor?
the assessor.
And he
Okay.
didn't even make you go to the board? Okay.
No.
okay,
And I thought as well, candidly, that we deserved more, but at the time, took that.
okay. The one question I have about the table you've prepared, I understand square footage, I understand lot name and price per foot. What's the improvement value? What is that?
So if
How do you determine
that's the
that?
language, and I mentioned that this is the process that, and John can speak to this, there's a value of the property in total,
Mhm.
right? And that is broken out for the assessor's perspective as land
Yep,
value
yep.
and quote improvement.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
talking about the home.
So what I went to the trouble of doing was stripping out the assessment of the dwelling,
Yes,
Mhm.
not the land
okay.
for all the properties, because that's the way this assessment offers,
So improvement value that you're using is actually the
That's
value
the
of
house.
the house.
The house.
That's fine.
property,
Okay, thank you.
not the land.
Thank you
So
for
the
explaining
land
that.
is a separate issue.
Okay,
And the reduction I got was on an overall basis, if you look at the total number.
Mhm.
Right. So it was a greater deduction on the property itself value as opposed to the land.
okay,
The land you see is 63, was 63.
Yep.
The total value is less.
Okay.
So it's a
Thank you.
greater percentage to the actual property. Any other question?
What you said you had in the town, did you give that to John to copy or?
No, I
Oh,
would just
could I
have
just-
to ask that subsequently, but that is available online. If you
Oh,
want to give me a
okay.
copy of that. So.
If
Any
you did
question
this-
about these?
If you did this, including the size of the property, would it change much?
Would it change? Well, I mean, there are larger properties and smaller properties, but I took only the dwelling
Right.
value. So a property that is significantly larger should have a very much larger. I didn't calculate that in the average, so it shouldn't change at all based on acreage. Does that make sense? It is presuming the acreage is consistent, but I'm not asking for
Do
that.
you have lake access?
Yes,
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
as does Wang, Hennessy, Hanson, Chernick, Dean, Regna, Neelis. Neelis is 4 acres, and then there's an issue of privacy. Many of these properties are very private. Also, two of these properties that are higher, Hennessy and Hanson, transacted, and the record shows that my property was bought for $980 in late November '96, under $1 million. The Hanson property and the Hennessy property have transaction histories of $3 and I believe $4 million at the same time. It's my, give or take a couple of years, but within the same
Substantial,
period,
yeah.
3 to 4
Multiples,
times.
multiples of your purchase
3 to 4
price.
times what my purchase price was. So, and they have significantly more privacy, things like pools, whatever.
Actually, it was not arm's length, right? His dad sold it to his son.
Well, Hennessy or Hanson?
Or Hanson.
Hanson is in a
Hanson,
trust.
mhm.
And whether it was arm's length and declared such or not, I don't know. But I know that the value was still relatively high into the trust. And the record on the property, if you look up the comparable state records on it, that's where I'm getting those figures for. But anyway, they're significantly in excess.
Mhm.
I think close to 3 to 4 times, and maybe 2 to 3 times, but it's, if I'm off.
Over the years, you bought it in, what'd you say, 96?
96.
You bought it in 96. Have you made any major improvements to the
We-
property?
We did maintenance to the property. We did not add a square footage,
Yeah.
square foot.
Mhm.
And we did, and we took our time doing it.
Next one was.
But that was 25 years ago,
Okay.
okay? And
Did you put on a new
I don't
roof, for
think-
example?
25 years ago.
Okay.
But I'm saying anything that we had done
Yeah.
is now the new thing.
Yeah.
Has been, is on the list if it hasn't been needed to be changed already. It's an older home. We love it, but, it's not a brand new construction.
Mhm.
Right? So, that's a different story.
Any other questions from the board members?
Would you say there's any significant differences between your house and the other houses you're putting up as comparables? Like you have a garage that has a separate living unit.
Yeah, no, I think there are significant differences to all the properties as is consistent
Yep.
with Tuxedo Park that speaks to the character and choice that. And positives and negatives and personal preference and negative. People want to be on the main lake, people want to be on a swimming lake, for example. People want an older home, we do. People want a newer home. We do.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fuel
No,
efficient.
this has been, this is really useful
think
and
that there-
helpful.
Most people on that list. We do have a small apartment in our garage.
You don't have a buffer?
No, we do.
Oh, you do, right,
Yeah,
right,
we do,
right.
and ours is cantilevered and leaning into the lake and doesn't have a toilet in it or plumbing, for example, as others, have had, recently. But, like I said, pros and cons, ours is right on the road, and the con is every car that comes out of the school lights up our bedroom window. It's kind of, interesting, but not desirable. We've had cars come off the road, which were right on, into our property historically, which is why there's a guardrail.
Yeah.
Okay, I like our location, but again, it's not as private. Privacy is a premium. Many of these are private properties. And, if you're asking me, the Neelis property, why is $12 a foot? Yeah, it's a big house, but if it were half the size it isn't, it's 24 a foot, okay? But it's not half the size, and they have 4 acres, and it's totally private. And, I wanted to be fair, I'm not asking for anything beyond what I really think is fair. And I think we've been paying too high for too long because we didn't really attend to it.
Okay, and the town, you said the town, which is, at least from in my perspective, is significant in terms of the town's reduction. That was last year,
That was a week ago.
a week ago.
Oh.
That was
Wow.
very significant.
Okay, yeah,
20% reduction.
Yeah. okay, all right.
Great.
And again, I made a case, but that was a week separate.
Okay, that's great. Anything else from the board? Anything else?
No, it's great.
Thank you so much for coming in. We will share your documents and the video with the other members when they return from their trips, and then we'll reach a decision, and you'll get it shortly. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. See you later.
See you.
Are we off?
No, no, I think we have another
Okay.
grievance, so we'll go straight to the next grievance.
I'll see you later.
I'm sorry?
Are you
Oh,
getting
okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
fine.
surgery?
All right,
Good
we
luck.
can stop the recording. The next resident is not quite ready.
I'm sorry.
Okay, the time is 6:30. We have our next in-person grievant. It is Ryan Lynch, who is grieving on behalf of, is it 217?
Yes.
217 West Lake Road. Mr. Lynch, we are here to listen to your presentation, review any documents or evidence you wish to present. We will consider everything you have to say. We will share your documents as well as the videotape of your presentation with the two board members who are not present here tonight. At some point in the near future, we will deliberate on your submissions, and we will reach a decision, and you will receive notification by mail in the near future. All right. And do you wish to speak directly to the board?
Yes. if that's
Okay.
possible.
If you do, I would administer an oath to you. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Certainly.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you're about to give will be given accurately and truthfully to the best of your ability to do so?
Yes.
Please sit down and tell us what you want to say.
Wonderful. Okay. So we received our tax information for this property. I wanted to point, we didn't get into it in time last year, but we're here now. Our assessed value had been set at $135,000 for a period of 25 years. We purchased the property in 22 and saw an increase of 61%, an additional $83,160 in our assessment, which then brought us to $218,160. For the tax year 24, we are seeing another increase of 19.79%. For a grand total of, excuse me, for a grand total of $261,180 for our assessed value. So I wanted to go through the application with you and explain kind of our, well, first and foremost, I think 93.3% over 2 years is a little egregious. Happy to care for share. These communities, that's nearly double in 2 years. And then, would you like to go through the application, or should I go through comps and other things that I've submitted?
Sure. I mean, this application doesn't contain any specific comps unless it does. Oh, you put one down for Patterson Brook Road.
For 18.
Yeah.
It's listed on the assessment roll for 2024. That's a direct comp both in carriage house style, size, build quality, and we have it listed here for a full market value of we have a full market value of $1.185,389, with the village taxable value of $172. That was the sale price, the 1.185. Our sale price was $735,000.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes, it was $735,000,
Okay.
including the sale of a vintage Lincoln, which we valued around, I think it was $30,000 or $35,000. So the recorded sale is $735.
Right.
The actuals are about $700.
Okay.
What we're asking is just an explanation of how we ended up at the 200-something number, a $260,000 number, when comparable properties are around 172.
Well, the thing about this hearing is it's not one in which the burden lies with the grievant. So it is not the village's responsibility to explain the tax increase. It is essentially your choice to explain why the increase over the number of years that you mentioned is excessive. This is not, in essence, this is not like a Board of Trustees hearing where I have to tell you why I'm gonna do it and
I
explain.
don't expect that,
Yeah.
but just communicating our thought process
Right.
and our confusion, perhaps that's something in your decision that you can consider.
Right. No, I understand that, and I fully appreciate it. The numbers to some extent speak for themselves, but the way it was reached in terms of the present assessed valuation of your property is not something we as a board explain to the grievance. Okay.
So yes, in terms of the numbers and capital improvement, I've listed those with respect to my conversation with John after beforehand on what constitutes improvement versus just fixing a roof that's leaking. We insulated, had to build out a couple walls to physically support that, added a small 10 by 20 pool, heating, windows, and the rest of the work completed on the house was a diligent and painstaking restoration to basically undo 75 years of deferred maintenance and make it back to what it once was.
I do have a question for John. What is the village's market value on this property?
$2,104,593.
We do plan on grading that as well. Last year it was at, actually the document I have says 1.8.
Okay, this is the town, this is your town tax bill?
I misread.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you gotta look at
Apologies.
that, that's okay, it's.
Thank you.
it is the same.
Okay, but that's important. The
Yeah.
town, what's the town assessment? Could you read it for us, Mr. Lynch? 1 million?
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah.
Do you see more of these than I do?
The town, as of July 1st of
The market value,
2022,
yeah.
had a market value of 1.8 million.
1.8 million, okay,
And that
in
is-
2022.
And this is the January 2024 bill.
Okay, all right.
So it hasn't changed since
Yeah.
2022.
But we purchased in 22, so.
Yeah. I don't know what the pass was in
Welcome
the
to
town, that's
you
just the
can
bill.
Hold on, Thanks.
All right.
But that is a value that we find a bit excessive and not supported in the market and will be grieving as well.
Okay,
I think-
the town, you mean the town value, market, yeah, okay.
As I said, the market comp supports something closer to the Patterson house.
So John,
There's the,
what do we carry it at?
We're carrying
Yeah.
it.
So
at,
218 now, they're.
Well, that's their, that's
Yeah.
their ratios.
That's their,
difference,
which
yeah.
is different than ours.
Different, so you can't,
Paul, did you
No.
wish to see this?
Well, let me just see.
I'm just curious, that was July 2022. When did you purchase it?
We purchased it in February of 22.
Oh.
Yeah, the purchase price was $735. I'm sorry, yes, it was. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, do you know what the square footage is, or maybe give us that number?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
sure I have a number, I just wanna make sure it's correct.
I'd reference that number because it's difficult to tell.
Okay.
now, I know you mentioned you missed the opportunity to do it to grieve last year for the village. Did you grieve for the town at all?
No, we missed the deadline once our bank had sent us the information. It was
Okay.
All rolled in. It was a bit of a shock, 61%.
Okay.
So for us to consider, if we carry it at mark value 2.1, the town is 1.8. Do you think the number should be 875?
I put the total number of improvements plus the purchase price, which arrived me at 875.
Okay.
And the market comp provided also had I believe, 3 or 4 car garage, freestanding, extra square footage, and much more contemporary build.
Is that Kimberly's?
It is.
It is Kimberly's.
Mhm.
a dark wood, a structure on Patterson.
Beautifully done. They
It-
even have the original.
It's a beautiful home. Yeah, I mean, I pulled into her driveway. It's a gorgeous house. It's all, and it's brand new?
I believe it burned down. John might know
Well,
this
I'll-
better.
I'll tell you the story. Doug Brown, who owned it 2 owners ago, Doug Brown, he came to the Board of Architecture Review to have a small addition made to the original structure and also add the separate garage, which is a part of it. Issued the building permit. Several months later, the contractor went there and demoed the inside, at which time they were concerned the building was going to fall down because all the sill plates around the perimeter of the building had rotted out because it was a horse stable for quite a while. So the homeowner came back to the board and submitted a revised set of plans to rebuild the whole house. And I proceeded with giving him a demolition permit and then a construction permit. So what's there, even though it looks historic and original, it's really a new structure that has the whole charm to it.
Which I can't think of a possibly more expensive construction.
Yes.
But
It was quite an
Came out
it was quite an undertaking.
I mean-
I actually needed a full set of construction plans at that point because he was taking the whole.
Is the
house.
opposing garage, is that original? Or is that also
No,
rebuilt?
that's brand new,
That's brand new too? Yeah, okay.
but the original, the footprint of the existing house is what was there.
so the original structure with improvements on the property still got us to a 1,185 sale price.
Is that was the sale price?
Correct.
Right.
Which is full
After,
market.
after.
And that was very
something-
recent, right?
It was,
Yeah.
in the year.
Yeah,
Yes, I believe she moved in the beginning of the summer.
okay.
Where's the Kimberly house? I'm trying to remember.
If you go.
Behind the Shore Library, behind Howard Shore's library property.
Off from Regner's.
If you go Patterson Brook,
Right.
across from Regna's, go all the way in the back. You go through the two pillars there for the Shore property. Bear to the right, and it's the first driveway on the right, in the back of the Shore
Just
Library.
past that gorgeous gate. I love those lamps on top of it.
Yes.
Yep,
That's
yep.
not where the Maureen Cohen lived.
Property before that on the right-hand side.
Oh.
And John, I'm sure you can provide them a standard application with, these documents like that.
I will.
Okay, so there'll be additional submissions on this? Okay, that's fine. All right. Any other questions? from any of the board
No.
members?
Good, very clear.
Yeah, thanks for all your work.
Okay.
For your consideration. I
Sure.
appreciate it. And in one closing comment, I think there's a concerted effort in this community to rehabilitate these structures and encourage people to do it. And if they get hit with a 93% tax bill, it may dissuade others from being as passionate as I am about making them back to their former glory. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, we can pause the tape now. Okay, the record should reflect the time is 8 p.m. The Board of Assessment Review has sat for 4 hours from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We've had in-person grievance hearings, and we have reviewed written grievances. We will resume for executive session at a time and place when we can be joined by our other members, Shaw and Scherer, and we will have executive session discussions. And we will then resume a public hearing following the executive session at a date and time to be determined, where we will announce our decisions on the various applications. So thank you both for coming, and everyone have a good night.
Do we have to have a public meeting?